It's time to look at the top eBay comic book sales from the month of August. Some old friends, some new surprises. Let's take a look at what made the list up next on this video from Bronzeville Comics. Hello, panelologists. This is Jim from Bronzeville Comics coming to you with another video. And before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Bronzeville_Comics. I'm on Whatnot at Bronzeville_Comics. We have sales every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And this coming Monday, it's going to be a lot of Western books. We got everything from Gene Autry to Jonah Hex. And also, there's a link to my email if you want to get in touch with me, as well as my eBay store. So we're going to just delve into it. Every month, I like to look at the top 10 comic book sales on eBay. And sometimes it's difficult to verify if the actual sale was made or the price was made at. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. There was one particular sale that interested me quite a bit because it was extremely low. And we're going to see maybe it's real or not. I don't know. Somebody maybe got a great deal. But let's I want to start by looking at the list. Okay, we're going to start here with an honorable mention. And this just kind of made me laugh. It's a Transformers number 79, and it's a Mark Jewelers insert. Newsstand variant, rare, CGC question mark. Well, there's no CGC, so that answers the question mark. And we can see, you know, it's a Mark Jeweler, but I mean, the book looks kind of mid-grade-ish. You know, there's some dirt and what have you on it. But they were asking $500,000 for this item. Somebody bought it, but not for $500,000. It sold for $80. So it failed to make the top 10 list. It was like when I did a search for eBay from top to bottom, that was at the top because nothing on this list exceeded $500,000. I guess they just wanted to get eyeballs on it, and they did. Sold the book. 80 bucks. And maybe that's about what it's worth of later Transformers. Anyway, let's go into the real list. The books that did make the list. Number 10 is going to be, there's actually a tie for 10th. One of the two books was Fantastic Four number 5 from 1962. The first appearance of Dr. Doom in a 6.5 CGC. Off-white to white pages. There is a note on this, so let's take a look at that. They asked $20,000 on it, and they accepted a best offer of $17,000. So, oh, this is really interesting. So this is something I think we're going to see more of, and maybe it's something to keep an eye on. I noticed there was a note in here. Obviously, it's origin, first appearance of Dr. Doom, full page ad for Incredible Hulk. Stan Lee and Joe Sinnott, written on first page in pen. Now, somebody can crack this out. I don't know if it's a candidate for a press. It's hard to tell. Maybe. I mean, does that look like it's on the book? Could it be improved? Because it is an older slab. But I would suspect somebody's going to crack this out and send it in for the JSA signature authentication. Because this is a Stan Lee signed book. And that's going to increase the value. Now, this in a 6.5 sold for $17,000. That's below the last two sales from 2023. And so I think the buyer got a really good deal on this book. If they can keep it at a 6.5, but get that nice gold label with the black trim at the top for the JSA signature verification, they're going to do very well with this book. I don't know. What does Stan Lee signed books go for in this? I mean, there's probably very few of them in a 6.5. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, you don't have many comps. 6.0 sold for $24,000. I would say it's somewhere between 25 and 30. What I would put the value of this book at, if it does get that JSA certification. Let's look at the other book that tied for 9th. And the book that we don't see too often, it's Batman #2, CGC 5.0, which is a nice grade for this book. Let's take a look at the book. That's it. Off-white pages. And that is, I mean, that is a beauty for this book. I mean, you don't see this book on eBay quite often. So that is an awesome, awesome book. Kind of hard to tell, right? They had listed it for $21,995. The best offer accepted was $17,000, which is kind of in line with recent sales. It's actually a pretty strong sale, considering it was going for about that in 2022 during the comic boom, and then went down to 15.6, and then it went down to 13.1. So a bit of a bump up. What's interesting is you look back pre-COVID, pre-comic boom, it was a $7,000 book. And 5.0, this kind of surprised me, but I guess they're only 153 on the census. 5.0 put you in the top 30, only the top 30%. I thought that would be closer to 10%. Because this is a book that you would get graded in any grade. A 0.5 is going to have value. So that kind of interested me. So let's go to number 8 on the list. And this is Amazing Spider-Man #1, CGC 6.0 from My Comic Shop. Also an old slab. They were asking and got full $19,100, I believe. The listing was ended by the seller because the item is no longer available. What likely happened is what I've talked about before. If you see My Comic Shop, you see an item, especially a $19,000 item, I'm going to guess that it was less on their website. If you go to their website, because if you buy it off their website, they're not paying the fees to eBay. You can avoid that. So this is a gorgeous copy, but kind of interesting. So a 6.0, very nice book. First J. Jonah Jameson, first Chameleon. Nobody really cares about that. It's the first issue in the series. 6.0 puts you in the top 16% of the census. So that's a lot higher than the 5.0 for the Batman, which is 20 plus years older. And the sales are right in line with recent sales. Last two sales were 18 and 19.2. So I think the buyer probably got a pretty good deal, and My Comic Shop probably did well, especially if they didn't have to pay fees. Let's take a look at number 7. Incredible Hulk #1, also a My Comic Shop book. Was this ended by the seller, so they probably paid a little bit less than this. They are asking for $23,000. I have it as a sale of $23,000. 4.0, nice looking book. Good amount of spine wear. Don't see a whole lot of creases on the front, just in this view. The back looks pretty standard. So that is a really awesome book. Let's see where this stands on the census. The 4.0 is in the top half of the census, and 23,000. That's what they have it listed for. So that sale, and I'm gonna guess that the buyer contacted My Comic Shop and probably got it for maybe even 10% less. I don't know. I should check like some of the big keys that they have listed. Anyway, but it's a little bit of a bounce back from April, but down a little bit from 2023 and certainly down from 2022, but still strongly above where it was in 2020. Still $10,000 more than a sale in 2020. So this book, it went up and it came down, but it's still performing strong based on the trend line prior to the comic boom. Let's take a look at number 6 on the list. And what would a list be without an Amazing Fantasy? Here we have Amazing Fantasy 15, CGC 3.0 signature series signed by Stan Lee, but you can see up at the top, it's also restored, gets that purple label. It was, the seller was asking for just under 20,000 pounds coming out of Great Britain. It sold for 16,995 pounds, best offer accepted. which converts to $22,459. And you see the Stanley signature. This is also the UK price variant, right? So a lot of information here on this book. The 9D, the number without the month. So that is something, restoration includes color touch, pieces added, tear seals, cleaned, reinforced, reglossed. You're not going to get rid of that restoration. So it is a restored book. It's kind of hard to track a sale on that. Signature series. This is, it's been up and down. There was one in 2022 for $42,000. It's gone for, I would say, this is incomplete. This one, qualified. Why is it qualified? Married cover, tape on interior. Which would you prefer? The restored with a married cover, or the qualified with the married cover with the green label or the green border at the top here, or the restored with all that was done for that? I think I might prefer the restored just because it looks nicer. And also, it's a UK price variant, which makes it really a little bit rarer. And generally speaking, those UK price variants, the colors pop a little bit more, because my understanding is these were printed first because they had to be shipped overseas. So, yeah, I don't understand why they kind of have a stigma attached to them almost among a good number of collectors where, it's kind of a little rarer. I don't mind having this book. It doesn't look appreciably different than the regular Amazing Fantasy 15, and it's not a second print. It was printed in the same print run as the books that came out in the US. So let's move on to number 5, and this is an interesting one. Walking Dead #1 from 2003 in a CGC 9.9. Okay, all the talk about 9.9s. So this is an old 9.9, 9.9 mint, white pages. We see here the cert number starts with a 1. So that is an old slab. Obviously, first Walking Dead in comics. And if we look at the sales here, right, there are 23 9.9s on the census out of 3,100, and also 3 signature 9.9s. Wow. This is a record sale for this book at 23,459. Does this look like a real sale? Is this, let's see, listing sold. Yeah. Wow. I think the seller was probably quite happy with that result because, like even in the comic boom, this was going for $13,000 at its peak, which was probably when, the show was the most watched show on television prior to Glenn getting his skull bashed in. Spoiler warning. Yeah, very, very strong sale on a 9.9. And I would be a little hesitant to see, if there are more 9.9s to come. So let's look at, we have then a tie for, tie for 4th. I think I have actually one extra book on the list, but that's okay. Just more fun to cover. My bad. Tie for 4th. We have 2 books tied for 4th, and one is Amazing Fantasy 15 in a CGC 2.5 that sold. Now, this said it was relisted. The listing sold and it was relisted. Maybe the person didn't pay for it. It has a custom label, which is nice. No restoration, no conservation, no qualification. A lot of wear on the edges. 2.5 and $25,000 is just right even at $10,000 a grade point. If we look at the 2.5, we'll get to that later. There's another copy, fairly strong sale, but we can see here it's kind of evened out quite a bit. It had jumped all the way at 2.5, was all the way up at what, $45,000. Pre-boom, it was, kind of creeping towards 15, didn't quite get there. And now it's like in the 23, 24 range. So a book that has done well through the comic boom. I don't know if this is going to drop anymore because this is such a desired book. There are only 2,500 copies on the census, which there are a lot more people that want an Amazing Fantasy 15 than there are books available in any grade. 2.5 puts you about the 70th percentile. So I guess in the inverse 70th percentile. So we'll talk a little bit more about this book in a few minutes. Let's go to the other book that's tied for fourth, and we stick with Amazing Spider-Man. And it's Amazing Spider-Man 129, the first appearance of the Punisher, in a CGC 9.8 white pages. And this is an old label as well. This begins with a 1. Can we question whether this is a 9.8? I don't know. Maybe that's just glare, but that looks a little something off there. That's fairly sharp. Yeah, sharp down there. Yeah, there's definitely something by the bottom sable. Almost looks like a stain. Maybe it's just the glare. Cool. So this particular book was listed for $25,000, and it got the asking price, right? The listing sold. And if we go to now, this is really interesting. It's not listed here, which gives me pause, but there are 209.8s on the census. But take a look at recent sales and look at the cert numbers. These are all recent cert numbers, right? Begin with 44, 44, 44, 42, 43, 43. These are all books that were probably graded in the last year. So somebody got a really high grade raw copy, but it's on. They're all different places. This one on eBay, others on Heritage and Comic Connect. I would say $25,000 is a really robust sale, even though we did see that sale. Actually, that's this sale, right? So we did see a Comic Connect sale for $28,750 back in March. I think this is, you have a limited number of collectors that are going to be going after this in a 9.8 because there are very few that can afford it. If you like 9.8s for Copper Age books, this is one of the more expensive ones. It did peak up at at $57,000, and it's down, but we're kind of in the 18-19 range, and prior to the boom, right, it was at about $13,000. So this is one that's doing well compared to the trend prior to the comic boom. Let's go to a tie for second place, and this one is very interesting. And it says the item sold, right? This is Batman #1, CGC 1.5 Universal. Somebody with a feedback rating of 172. Okay. Sold for $25,000. Right? There's only 2 pictures, not even a picture of the back cover. That doesn't look terrible for a 1.5. Looks like maybe could it be taped there or something? And that's it. Brittle pages. So I don't think anybody's cracking this out. But let's take a look at now this is such an outlier. The previous sale back in 2022, granted during the boom, was $103,000. And the sales prior to that, 78, 70, 92. You got to go back to 2013 for a sale that was lower than $25,000. Is this a legit sale or not? I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you think. And then if we look at GP analysis and Batman #1 in a 1.5, it doesn't list that. The last sale list is $78,000 back in 2020 pre-boom. So again, kind of a head scratcher, and maybe a little bit of the possibility of shenanigans going on there. Let's go to the other book on tied for second, which is another 2.5 Amazing Fantasy 15, which sold for $26,500. So yeah, this doesn't have the custom label. I think I think the presentation is about even. The other had a lot of damage up at the top of the brown, which kind of catches your eye, but there was no big creasing or anything on Spider-Man himself, what we see here. But still, this is an Amazing Fantasy 15. I wonder if this has been cleaned or pressed. I don't know how much better it could get, but I mean, that does not look like it's ever been pressed. cleaned or pressed. Not everything will come out of that, but that definitely looks like, you know, maybe a bump to a 3.0, and a bump of a 0.5 for this book is like a $5,000 profit. So I don't know if this is somebody who's going to risk that or somebody who just wants a nice copy, you know, decent presenting copy of AF-15 for their personal collection. Because as I said, there are a lot more people out there that want this book than there are books available. This is like the ultimate grail for Spidey fans, certainly people who collect from the Silver Age, or, you know, I think almost anyone would want to have this book in their collection. And now let's take a look at number 1 on the list. And number 1 is an interesting one, right? It's Fantastic Four, number 1 through 645. The complete set of Fantastic Four. The asking price was just a penny under $40,000, and it sold for $26,000. I think they got a good deal. They also have, you know, Heroes Reborn 1 through 13, 1 through 70, all the way through other volumes, 12, first 12 of Ultimate, the World's Greatest Comics 1 through 12. And they're missing Annual 2 and more miscellaneous Fantastic Four comics. So this guy, I guess he knew what he had, but he was looking to sell it as a lot. I mean, it would take more time, but whew, I mean, $26,000, right? So the picture isn't great here. So number 1, okay, that looks decent, right? $26,000. So what does Fantastic Four 1 go for? That would, like, what grade would you need on this to have everything else be a break even? Yeah, you'd need a higher grade. Probably this is like around a 3. So you're probably about $10,000 in on that book. And there were plenty of other books in the, you know, all of these are, and this is just kind of fun to scroll through, that somebody has all of these books. Yeah, they're a little bit lower grade. Was it worth it? 2 copies of number 10. And then you can see a couple duplicates. First Inhumans, a duplicate of that. Then we have the Surfer Galactus trilogy, first Black Panther. You know, those look pretty decent. Then the annuals. Doesn't have Annual 2, which is the Doctor Doom annual. But Annual 1, yeah, this is just, I mean, this is, could you imagine like just ordering this, spending $26,000, and then just kind of breaking out this the entire run of FF, including number 1. That's pretty cool. So that's going to do it for the eBay list for August of 2024. Come back next month when we look at September, but we have videos 4 times a week. Until then, generally on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday mornings. Thank you for stopping by. I am going to the Baltimore Comic Con this weekend. I'm going to try to do maybe a little bit of live coverage on there, but I definitely will have a wrap up. My buddy who owns my LCS, he had some free passes, so we're going to go. We're going to the Oriole game Saturday night, so kind of a road trip out of it. So that's going to be fun, and then I'll be back to show you the haul. I also have a vintage CGC order back. Hopefully no bananas in that, and that's what's coming up on the channel. Thanks for stopping by. You can take a look at my take a look at a couple of my other videos here, and this is Jim saying until next time, enjoy your comics.